Equality of law is upheld and respected at all times.
Tonight we'll be assessing the 7th Parliament as we look forward to the 8th. Also tonight, race for control of the 8th Parliament continues in earnest as minority hints of last-minute moves at convincing former MP to join their side.
It's legally untenable, especially when you throw him and humiliated him out of Parliament. Who says that we are not also negotiating to have him on our service? So
we'll take you live tonight also to the Kotoka International Airport as dignitaries begin to arrive ahead of the swearing in of the president-elect. In business.
Economist Professor Peter Cote describes President Akufo-Addo's assessment of the economy in State of the Nation address as accurate, but wants more to be done in the area of job creation.
And then in sports later.
And in sport, we get the latest from Sudan as Al Hilal versus Asante Kotoko does not happen because the Ghanaian club do not agree with COVID protocols that were done and allegations that 11 of their team were testing positive.
You want to join us with your views and comments? Feel free, 055 1111 997. My name is Evans Mensah.
Hey, Charlie, my network is really killing me. I have to pay my uncle's workers via mobile money, but the charges alone, it's about 380 cedis. Charges alone just to send money? That's $10 of cement already, my guy. Listen, bro, you can save money on charges if you move to Vodafone Cash now. Vodafone Cash? But my network is Hey, sending money on that your network, you pay. Sending money on your network to other networks, you pay. But guess what? Sending money on Vodafone Cash is free. Sending money on Vodafone Cash to all other networks is also absolutely free. No charges at all on Vodafone Cash. So tell me, what are you still doing on that your network? Massa, look sharp, then move to Vodafone Cash. Hey, make a change the SIM right now. Yeah, sending money on Vodafone Cash to all other networks is now absolutely free. Send unlimited amounts of money as many times as you like for free. Just dial *110# now to send money.
The future is exciting. Ready?
Belacqua so cool, refreshing the family, empowering lives for a better day, quenching your thirst, preserving society. Belacqua for us, Belacqua mineral water. Keep drinking, Belacqua, keep drinking, Belacqua for us. Belacqua mineral water. Keep drinking, Belacqua, keep drinking, Belacqua for us. Belacqua mineral water.
Belacqua, providing clean, refreshing water and contributing to making our environment safer with our recycling plants and lighter plastic initiatives. Belacqua mineral water for the greater good. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
What would you do with 50 gigabytes free data? Would you binge watch TV all day? Would you download FIFA 21? How about downloading your entire coursework? Or you do all at the same time? See, Surfline has a way of giving you value like no one does. 50 gigabytes free data when you get yourself a Surfline device. Now that's a sledgehammer. Don't miss out on anything. Get yourself a Surfline device today from any Surfline shop and get 50 gigabytes free data to do all you ever wanted on Ghana's only true 4G LTE network.
Surfline, it's about time.
And you're live on Newsnight. It's on Joy 99.7 FM. Of course, the developing story tonight is, of course, what we are waiting to unfold in the next few hours in Parliament. But there's a big twist in the story ahead of the election of the new Speaker for the 8th Parliament, which is the decision of the Cape Coast High Court granting an injunction that restrains a Member of Parliament-elect for the Sin North constituency, James Kwesing, from holding himself out as MP elect for the constituency. The court has instructed that the collective parliament be served that will prevent the NDC Member of Parliament-elect from participating in the proceedings want to elect a speaker and then be sworn in. And this, we understand, will hold until the substantive case in which his qualification to run as an MP is being questioned because of the allegation that as at the time he was filing to contest with the Electoral Commission, he was holding on to a dual Canadian Ghanaian citizenship. Of course, the NDC lawyer who represented the NDC MP had described this as a sad day for the administration of justice, and that he claims that the justice delivery system has been bastardized. I want to bring in private legal practitioner Martin Kpebu on this developing story tonight, with all the implications he has for Parliament in the 8th Parliament. Mr. Kpebu, what's your reaction to this development?
Oh, certainly, I'm shocked. All this while we had been doing the mathematics as 137 MPs for the MPP and 137 for the NDC, only to be hit with this injunction at this 11th hour.
So, you of course, you said he left you shocked. We are waiting for, of course, the entire ruling, and from what we hear, it took 45 minutes or so for it to be read. So there's a lot in there. But the substantive matter relates to his dual citizenship. The injunction has been granted. Is it your view that within the context of the stakes involved, you didn't expect this outcome?
Oh, definitely. That one, because there was a danger that the people would be unrepresented for a while if the injunction is granted. Somehow in my mind, I thought that it would not be. But, hey, the trial judge had a duty to perform. He saw all the evidence, and he had the final call. So as a country of laws, we have to go along with him at this juncture.
The lawyers for the Member of Parliament elect say they had attempted to file notice of appeal and a stay of execution even before the judgment was finished. The ruling, the judge finished reading his ruling, but they got to the court, they got to the registry, and the filing clerk was absent, had gone to Southport, they allege. These two processes, notice of appeal and stay of execution, would they have stopped the orders of the court from being carried out?
Yes. So in law, no matter how serious or weak you think an application for stay of execution is, once it's been duly filed, you have to stay your hands. That's, in this case, the ruling. What the ruling seeks to achieve. We would have had to stop and wait for the judge to rule on the stay of execution before carrying out the order. That is, if he dismisses the stay.
Is it strange what Abraham Aliba recounts, that they got to the registry and the filing clerk was absent, and so they could not file these two processes, knowing how the courts operate?
Yeah, the court ordinarily, there are two things. The filing counter, they close at 3 p.m. Okay? So if you have a situation where it's not yet 3 p.m., every practicing lawyer has full expectation that the filing counter will be open up to until 3 p.m. So if only he was there before 3 p.m., he had every legitimate expectation that it will be open. Except once in a while, then maybe they say the staff have a deba, a party, and those things. Those happen usually around Christmas.
Now there's a major point about service on the clerk to Parliament. The court, from what has been confirmed by the two lawyers on the opposing sides, specifically instructed that the ruling be served on the clerk to Parliament. First of all, if it's not served formally on the clerk, can the member of parliament elect go in and participate in the processes in the leading to the eighth parliament?
Okay. This one, there are two schools of thought. It depends on where you want to start. Well, but generally, once he was in court and had the ruling restraining him from going to participate and holding himself up as a member of parliament, pro tanto, that's it. Even if it's not served on the clerk, it takes effect. He doesn't have to go. Then there are those who would say, "Oh, it's not been served yet," but that's a less popular opinion. Okay, but it's just to tell you that if you do a sample, you'll find some lawyers who will subscribe to the second one, that to the extent that it's not being served on the clerk, it doesn't take effect. But that's not one I subscribe to. Once he was in court, he heard the orders. That is it. That's how come you see they were trying to file the stay of execution. Yes.
But considering that Parliament was not a party to this matter, and so Parliament is not aware, and from what his lawyer says, he's already registered in Parliament to be part of the 8th Parliament, and he intends to obviously, go there and be part of it. If he shows up and the Parliament is not aware, he gets to do it. He gets to elect the Speaker. He gets to be sworn in. Should Parliament, some have even offered the view, and my parliamentary correspondent says when he checks with the clerk's office, a view came forth that Parliament will have to get a specific order from the court on this matter. What do you make of that also? Because Parliament was not a party to the case.
So, yeah, that's why I said some subscribe to that opinion, that Parliament will have to specifically receive the court order before they will seek to take him out of the rest of the process. Yes, we've seen that in the past. We see even in respect of some criminal cases in the past, we seek to arrest an MP, but if the Speaker is not being informed that he has not been given the go-ahead, you can't arrest the MP, you can't invite him. So there are all these processes. But I also mentioned the one that it behoves of the MP. If you heard the judge saying, "Don't do this," well, the question is, why do you want to go ahead?
Now, final question. The principle of lack of representation for the constituents was used in the Techiman South matter when, of course, the legitimacy of the electoral outcome as announced by the EC was challenged. Are the two cases the same, and why the differences in approach by the courts?
Definitely, the two cases are different in certain respects. Of course, the common underlying thread is about representation of the people of the constituency in Parliament. But there are other facts that make them different. You see, in the Evans Mensah case, no issue of dual nationality came up. But in this one, there's an issue of dual nationality. So it's an easy point to say that the two cases are different, even though I'm very sympathetic to the principle that the people of Asin North must be represented in Parliament at this time. Yeah, but the two cases are different. And so let's come back to this. The judge is confronted with certain principles in order to grant or refuse the application. So that he would say one of them is that he has to hold the status quo ante, so that he doesn't want to do anything that prejudices the outcome. So if you look at the elements that are usually written out in order to grant an application of such a nature, usually you would think that the NPX has a good case. But, the balancing exercise is by the trial judge. So once he thinks no, he has seen the final evidence, which is the certificate of renunciation. Once he's seen that it was issued after the MP has been nominated, he had filed his nomination, he would not allow him to take the seat. That is a judge call. From the High Court, we can go to Court of Appeal, Supreme Court. So let's follow due process.
Well, Martin Kpebu is a paralegal practitioner. Thank you very much. What do you make of this? 055-1111-997. There's a lot happening in Parliament. We'll go there shortly with more reactions to this. But after 4 years of service in the nation, the 7th Parliament of Ghana will stand dissolved at midnight tonight, regarded as one of the best. The 7th Parliament has the enviable record of passing 125 out of the 135 bills presented to the House by the Akufo-Addo government. But it was not without drama, controversy, and allegations of corruption. Listen to the President himself paying glowing tribute to the Parliament.
I would like to say a special thank you to the members of this august House, to the members of this 7th Parliament in our 4th Republic. I speak as someone who has served 3 terms in this House, and I can safely say that this 7th Parliament has been the busiest ever and arguably the most productive in the history of our country. You have passed almost 50 pieces of legislative instruments. The acts have been wide-ranging in scope and reach. We finally have the Right to Information Act. We have an Office of Special Prosecutor Act. The Ghana Integrated Aluminum Development Corporation Act, the Ghana Integrated Iron and Steel Development Act, the Witness Protection Act, the Lands Act, the Historic Private Members Bill, and lots more. In many ways, you have helped transform Ghana, and you have every right collectively to be proud of the work you have done.
And that's the president himself yesterday when he read his final State of the Nation address. Well, moments ago, the leaders of the House read their closing statements, and the session, Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu, is unhappy about what he described as the selective application of the law in the country.
Are dissatisfied with the polarization of our country, the excessive partisanship in our country, the divisiveness in our country. They want to see a country which shares its benefits and opportunities to all, regardless of our political belief and faith. The combined effect of Article 1101 and Article 11, we still commit that Parliament needs a new standing orders and a revised standing orders. My colleague and I disagree with the process of adopting it after extensive work by all of us to have new standing orders, because Article 11.7 requires the mandatory 21 days to get it into law. His was to think that we could adopt it by a resolution. This is not an amendment, it's a comprehensive revision of our standing orders. Leadership, it was difficult. What I'm happy about is that my colleague, the majority leader, cannot bully me again saying that I'm comfortable with numbers 137, 137. Equality. Ghanaians voted for 137, 137. Mr. Speaker, I pray and I look forward to a Ghana which does not have different set of laws and rules for NDC and PP, but the rule of law in all its facets, including equality of law, is upheld and respected at all times. Different ruling in Techima to have representation, different ruling in Asi North not to have representation, that can only be a manifestation of some legal illiteracy at times. To our colleagues who are not able to make it, Mr. Speaker, how sad that the Honorable Lecturer is my quiet legal and procedure advisor, the Honorable Inus of the Senate, Chairman Banda of the Constitutional Legal Affairs, and Chairman Asibe of the Finance Committee. It must wake our political parties up to preserve and protect good working members of Parliament. We have to undertake the necessary reforms. And the voluntarily retired, my former teacher of economics and Minister for Monetary and Evaluation, and to our colleagues who are not able to make it, better luck next time.
Well, talking about better luck next time, Parliament has lost a lot of its members. In fact, in the 8th Parliament that is just about to play out, they're going to have a significant number of new faces. Majority Leader Evans Mensah, who was giving his final statement to the 7th Parliament, made this a point, unhappy with the high attrition rate.
The high attrition that the 4th Republican Parliament is suffering is tragic and a matter that should be of great concern to all political parties. The attrition rate is proving to be detrimental to the work of the House. Permit me to reiterate that there's nowhere in the world, in entrenched democracies, where at the end of the life of Parliament, the sluice gates are open for all and sundry. It does not exist anywhere in the world. Democracy everywhere is guided and guarded. The Speaker, with this phenomenon is not dealt with. It may undermine political continuity, the achievement of long-term political goals, and the robustness of public policies and programs. It may also lead to erratic lawmaking, as Parliament is deprived of the accumulation of legislative skills and experience. Every 4 years, we witness the rather unfortunate exit of experienced members of the House. As I have indicated on some platforms, practice they say makes perfect.
And that's Acheme Sabungsu. Well, the Speaker of Parliament himself, that's Professor Mike Okwe. Remember that he is going to be on the ballot tonight when the 8th Parliament begins sitting, the stroke of midnight. But of course, he had to sign off himself as the superintendent of our proceedings in the last 4 years. He believes he's been fair and firm when it comes to dealing with all sides.
Honorable members, my stewardship for the past years, I hope, has met the expectation of being fair and firm in the application of the rules and procedures of this honorable House to all. I've had the privilege to superintend over a House which has generally been very supportive. Consultations and consensus have been resolved too in times of apparent tension. I've been spared the ordeal of overseeing a rancorous House, and I would like to render my sincerest appreciation to the leadership of the House and indeed the backbench for managing to build bridges in times of need. Together, we banned catcalls, placards, and allied activities which constituted an embarrassment to the House, especially during presidential addresses. This will remain a prestigious legacy in this honorable House. I can only hope this cordiality and conviviality will be maintained in advancing the cause of deepening our parliamentary democracy. Honorable members, our ability to deepen the democratic practice is to forge ahead as a united people with common destiny. History teaches us that conflicts on the political turf neither inure to the benefit of the vocal complainants nor the silent onlooking segment of the population.
So that is the Speaker of Parliament, who himself, his tenure comes to an end, the stroke of midnight. I want to bring in a member of Parliament who is not returning to the House, Ras Mubarak, incumbent member of Parliament for Kumbungu. Ras Mubarak, thank you very much for your time here on Newsnight.
Pleasure, Evans.
What's the overriding emotion tonight as we approach midnight for you?
Well, it's been an absolutely exciting 4 years. I've made a lot of very good friends to the extent that many have become more than just friends. We've become family, and it's sad to know that many of us will not return to the hallowed chambers of Parliament, but it's been a very great honor done me by my constituents, the people of Kumbungu, and I couldn't have been more grateful to them, for the opportunity to serve. I am very, very humbled. It's been an exciting journey. One thing I would obviously miss would be question time, an opportunity to get government ministers to account for their stewardship through the people's representatives, and so far so good. We look back with a lot of excitement about, the work that we have done over the last 4 years. And may I, if you would, use this opportunity to encourage, especially new entrants, to take interest in legislation, because it's one of the difficulties that our parliament is faced with, where fewer and fewer members of parliament take interest in the act of lawmaking.
Yeah, I mean that's a big point, because Parliament, its primary job is to pass legislation. I mean, and you make a point there. But let me ask you: if I ask you to rate the 7th Parliament of which you were part of, what percentage would you score it? How will you score it?
Probably 85. We've done quite a lot of work, passed a lot of bills. We've passed landmark legislations, legislations that many parliaments of years gone by struggled to even get through consideration. You can talk about RTI, which never saw the light of day for many years. The one unfortunate bill that obviously didn't get passed is the interstate succession bill, which I was hoping that we would have done. But we've done, a private members bill as well, another very, very important milestone in the history of our parliamentary democracy. And I think it strengthens Parliament, What I am very much unhappy about is the overly partisan nature of the way we do things in Parliament. And probably this next Parliament gives us an opportunity for members of Parliament to actually keep the legislature to hold government to account. You would remember that we had in Speaker Peter Lajete, a very fantastic Speaker of Parliament, but for his insistence to keep a clear separation of powers, where the executive could not overreach into the realm of the legislature, he was asked to step aside and didn't get the support that he needed from Parliament to get a second term in office. We can't consistently have Parliament pandering to the whims and caprices of the executive,
which has been one of the biggest criticisms against the 7th Parliament, and many look at that and say is a reason why.
It's one of the low points.
Is a reason why in the just ended elections, the Ghanaians voted the way they did for the 8th Parliament, with its dead heat between the two parties. Stay with me. I want to bring in Dr. Evans Mensah, who is a political scientist and the Chief Director of the Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs. Dr. Mensah, thank you for your time here on Newsnight.
Thank you very much for this unique opportunity.
I mean, if I ask you to assess the 7th Parliament, you are a lecturer yourself. You score students. The 7th Parliament were your student. How will you score it?
Thank you very much. Parliament, we call it the democratic face of the country. And normally you are going to look at one of the critical areas as legislation, lawmaking. Laws are the ways by which societies are governed. I mean, without the laws, you and I are the worst of animals, according to Aristotle. So if you look at, as the honorable member rightly pointed out at the other side, that this Parliament has dealt with a number of landmark legislation, and critical among them will be this whole issue of not just even the private members bill, but the procedure for even its introduction. It is one area that gives private members the opportunity to put certain critical issues on the public agenda, which for me is very critical to deepen our democratic governance. Of course, that means that the whole interpretation of Article 108, which hitherto put a lot of premium on the financial implications of legislation, is actually dealt with effectively by this Parliament. Of course, if you look at the RTI, which had been in Parliament, intermittently for almost about 2 decades. You are looking at even the vigilantism and related offenses, among others, national identity registration, the African Union import levy, especially all manner of
there's a lot. There's a lot. Let me ask you, what in your assessment will be the 7th Parliament's biggest legacy to our democracy?
For me, is one of the critical things. I would say that they have been able to put in place a critical landmark legislation, which, if effectively implemented, would actually deepen not just the procedural democracy that we're talking about, but also substantive democracy. I'm talking about, when I talk of substantive democracy, I'm looking at the dividend that will flow out of democratic governance by way of development. That is, for me, is very critical going into the 8th
in the 8th Parliament. Let me return to my first question. The lecturer, Dr.
I think that they have done remarkably well in spite of the difficulties that we have had. Don't forget that attrition rate has always been very high. Even the 8th Parliament, they are losing 111. The attrition rate hovers around 50%. That means that it takes a lot by way of experience out of Parliament. The constant peeling of the members is not good for institutional development. If you read the concept of past defenders,
I'm still waiting for your rating.
I will say that I will give them a straight A, and I will give them 80%, which in Legon will be a straight A. But what it means is that there's always room for improvement. And I'm sure that they can actually move in certain areas, that gray areas that we all will identify. Because don't forget that even though human beings are not perfect, I believe that something perfect can be done. And that is critical for our development.
I'm grateful, Dr. Evans Mensah, for sharing your thoughts on this. Ras Mubarak, all the best, of course, in your future engagements. And I'm sure we'll be crossing paths a lot now that you become a private citizen like myself. I'm pretty sure I'll see you in traffic. That's, of course, our assessment of the 7th Parliament. And you've also been speaking. Ernest Menu joins me with your thoughts on social media on this. And as we asked a question.
Yes, we asked a question. What is your assessment of the performance of the 7th Parliament? And we give them 3 options. A, excellent. B, good. C, poor. Now, on Twitter, on our Joy FM handle, we have 720 people voting so far. And we posted just an hour ago. 38% say they did a good job, 47% say they did a poor job, and 15% excellent.
So poor is the majority?
It's majority, 47%. And then good, 37%, excellent, 15%.
Okay. Well, I'll be sharing with you some of your messages on social media shortly. And then when we return, tomorrow is a big day. There's going to be the inauguration of the president-elect. We'll be touching base with a reporter at the Kotoka International Airport, where dignitaries from all over the world have been arriving. We'll be speaking to the Deputy Information Minister, Paul Tajide, about the plans for tomorrow. You want to stay with us for that. And George, you are faced here with the latest from the world of business. Hello, George. I know you've been in Parliament a lot over the last 4 years, covering the budget, etc., talking to the exactly
and all those things.
Yeah, your own assessment from the business point of view.
I thought it was quite interesting when you want to look at the main bit about the passing laws. I mean, that's what you want to rate them on, and then the volumes of laws that they worked on and all the rest. And even with the business, with respect to the business laws and all that, you will see that they've done very well. Maybe the only problem has been when in the public eye, we've not seen them compromise a lot and work on a lot of things in the interest of the state. Maybe that might be the problem, even though behind the scenes at the committee level, they've been doing a lot of great work. So I think that I will give them a pass, an excellent mark for when it comes to assessing them on the bit about passing legislations and also those that actually matter when it comes to the business space and the economy and all those. And the finance committee on the whole, I think they've done a great job. I mean, as well, the members and even their chair as well, Marcus Weber, who will not be in the next parliament as well. So we'll be looking forward to see
who occupies that
who would
position.
be the new chair of the finance committee.
What else do you have in the headlines, George?
Well, even coming up in business, the economist Professor Peter Kote described President Akufo-Addo's assessment of the economy in the State of the Nation address as accurate, but wants more to be done in the area of job creation. And the activation of the African Free Trade Agreement is set to give Ghanaian firms an opportunity to export to 34 African countries duty-free, quota-free. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials. And First National Bank, we are the bank that understands your business. First National Bank, how can we help you?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, don't worry, Grandpa. There are still 5 ripe and 15 unripe mangoes on the tree.
That's my boy.
Grandpa, it's still 1.2 kilograms of rice in the container.
My boy. And how much credit did I spend last week?
Well, you spent 5 CDs on calls, 2 megabytes on data, and you sent 5 SMSs.
We are the first network that tells you exactly what you have spent and when you spent it. Dial *156# to access your statement on MTN. We are good together. We day for you everywhere you go.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kingdom Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
We know it's important to create a productive and supportive working environment by investing in your employees' health. With a leading international track record, Apex Health Insurance is regulated and licensed by the National Health Insurance Authority to provide medical insurance services to institutional clients, families, and individuals. Apex Student Package and International Medical Solutions are all here to cushion you. Visit Apex Health Insurance Office at Zion House, Boundary Road, Shiashi, or call
0501 683 914
or 0232 000 015. In Kumasi, we are located opposite Prempe College, Sofo Line, and in Takrady, Apex Health, your preferred health insurer.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, economist Professor Peter Gotti says President Akufo-Addo's description of the economy in the State of the Nation address can be described as accurate. The president in his address talked about how they've been able to stabilize the economy despite several challenges. Let's hear the president on the other issues that he highlighted in his address about the economy.
Characterized by strong growth in response to implementation of government flagship programs, single-digit inflation, reduced fiscal deficits with 3 consecutive years of primary surpluses, relatively stable exchange rate, significant improvement in the current account with 3 consecutive years of trade surpluses, strong foreign exchange reserve buffers, and markedly reduced lending rates. The global pandemic of COVID-19 threatened to derail the progress chalked over the first 3 years of my administration.
But Professor Peter Gotti noted that in the area of job creation, government may have to do more.
in the previous regime and went ahead to explain how the president actually put the economy in its true state. He started by looking at the economy previous regime and went ahead to explain how his government has been able to grow the economy. The issue of jobs has been a challenge. If you look at the population growth rate, you look at the labor force growth rate, you see that we are churning out more people into the labor force than the economy can absorb. And therefore, it might not take just 3 years or 4 years. It might take over a decade or more. And we need to create more jobs than we are doing. I believe the government has created jobs, but we need to accelerate that. Otherwise, we'll continue to have unemployment problems, and that will not augur well for our economy. So these issues the policies of plentiful food and jobs, the policies of one district, one factory, and growing the financial sector and many other sectors of the economy would indeed help to stabilize the economy, to indeed help to create more growth and employment. And that is what we need to accelerate.
That's economist Professor Peter Kote. Now, Ghanaian firms now have an opportunity to export to about 34 African countries, duty-free, quota-free. It follows the activation of the Africa Free Trade Agreement area among these 34 African countries that have signed up to the pact. International Business Development Director at Casapreco, Francis Holiazra, has been speaking to my colleague Ebenezer Sabuti after the company received a certification from Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority to actually start benefiting from this.
We've been handed over our certificate of origin, being the first company to take part of this opportunity.
What does this mean, this certificate of origin? What does it signal?
Well, this means bigger opportunity for Ghana and the rest of Africa. We having a bigger market to import our product into, and then trying to put these products to compete with the other giants of the world, and then in Africa as well.
We saw you being one of the first companies, like you did mention. Which country is that consignment going?
Well, this first consignment is going to South Africa, and then this means that we're going to ship into South Africa quota-free, duty-free, and it's a big opportunity for us to be competitive on the shelf as well. This is going to remove all the barriers or the blocks that we've been having importing into other countries, and then Nigeria as well. And then we're going to see goods now moving freely, unlike spending days on the road, working on documentations, and then with other restrictions from other governments. I think this opportunity is good. It's good for Ghana as well. It's good for Africa, and then moving forward.
And that is the International Business Development Director at Casapreco, Francis Holiazra. Now, the World Bank says the challenges posed by COVID-19 to the world global economy, as well as those in Africa and the sub-Saharan countries, are far from over. Now, several developed economies have been forced into a second lockdown due to what they describe as a second wave impact on the economy. However, the same cannot be said to countries in the sub-region and even, let's say, Ghana. But speaking in interaction with the interim IFC Managing Director, Stefan von Redberg, Mr. Balpa said maybe the time has come to fall on the private sector to help the situation. Meanwhile, the managing director of the ISC, Stefan von Frederberg, has been given more details on what they are doing with the private sector to assist several African countries.
In the developing world, so I'll give you a really good example. We have a clothing manufacturer we invested in Sri Lanka called Hella. And when they began to see that people weren't buying their trousers and their shirts and their dresses, they converted a big piece of their factory to create protective gear for hospitals and have begun exporting that across Asia. So we knew that there was a lot that we could do there. And now that we have the facility up and going, we see an opportunity to continue to pivot it toward not just vaccine production, but I would say some of the other areas around the logistics, the transport, the distribution, the cold storage.
And so you talked about recovery, and so if we begin to think about surviving COVID and looking beyond, one of the issues is how do countries actually use private sectors in order to create jobs, in order to supply healthcare and educate. What things can be supplied through the private sector, and how is that done in the poorest countries?
David, I've been in development finance for 29 years, and I think the private sector is probably more important now than we've ever been in helping the global economy kickstart growth as we emerge from this pandemic. And I say that because, and I'm sure we'll come to this later, but we know there's just limited fiscal space in our countries of operation, and especially in the poorest countries in the world. Governments don't have the capacity to continue to create the economic growth and the jobs that are needed for the citizens in those countries. And so the private sector can and must play a super important role.
And that is the interim IFC Managing Director Stefan von Fredberg interacting with the World Bank President David Malpass on the impacts of COVID-19 on the global economy as well as developing countries and those in Africa. The expected impact of COVID-19 has forced the bank to actually revise Ghana's growth rate for this year to 1.4%. That is far away from what the Bank of Ghana is projecting, that is the 2.5%. And that's all for business on Newsnight. Back to you, Evans, as we wait for tonight. And Parliament has been dissolved already, right? So we are
No,
waiting for...
it hasn't been dissolved.
Oh, okay.
So Parliament, the 7th Parliament will be dissolved, stroke of midnight.
Okay.
So the showdown, the showdown. We're waiting for the showdown.
Showdown, Little Tokyo, those movies, waiting forward to see how things will actually pan out in Parliament at a few minutes past midnight, right? We're looking forward to see how things will pan out, whether the current speaker's term will be extended to the 8th Parliament or the other person who's been nominated will also get it or not, and see how this injunction also will play out, whether the clerk of Parliament to be served or not.
Listen, you want to stay with us because your election headquarters, we're going to be live from Parliament from 9 p.m. with PM Express first, and then we'll start in earnest at 10 p.m. Myself, Winston, the entire crew is going to be with you until 3 a.m. Or whatever time the Parliament is done electing a speaker, swearing in the new members, and electing 2 deputies. We are going to be with you all the way till tomorrow morning. You don't want to sleep because it's going to be pretty exciting. Let's do sports now, and Gary Smith is here with the latest. Hello, Gary.
Hi, Evans. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, so in the sports today, yesterday I told you that Asante Kotoko were supposed to play in the CAF second leg
and they had gone there and said they want to be paid.
Yes, the boys were. So from one bit of drama to another. So today the game was supposed to come off at 1 p.m. But with hours to kick off, there was a bit of drama. Why? Because we understood with news from the camp that Asante Kotoko had COVID positive cases. In fact, 7 players were alleged to be positive with COVID-19, and 4 officials were also alleged to be. So, meaning that they had 11 members of their contingent. However, Asante Kotoko said they did not agree to the veracity of the results. Now, as you know, in African football, the away team is not responsible, or a neutral party does not do the COVID test. It is the home team that is responsible for the COVID test. And Asante Kotoko believed that the team, that is Al Hilal, who were going to be the home side, had tampered with the results, going as far as showing on Twitter what they believed to be mishandling of the results as well. In the end, CAF had to postpone the game or call off the game, and so we are awaiting what the final decision will be. About 2 hours ago, CAF put an official statement out confirming that Asante Kotoko could not raise a team for today's game, but they stopped short of saying whether Kotoko have been docked points, and so the points will be given to Al Hilal and so on. Listeners might recall that Asante Kotoko benefited from a similar thing when Nouadhibou of Mauritania came for their second leg here in Ghana. And in the end, Asante Kotoko were given the point and allowed to go into this stage of the competition. This has been happening all across the African continent. But Evans, you might be asking, why doesn't it happen in Europe? It's because in Europe and elsewhere, an independent body is allowed to do the COVID test so that there's no problem with it. And we spoke to a Sudanese journalist, Abdul Musa, who believes that even though all these shenanigans are going on, CAF and nobody else is to blame.
All of this, CAF's to blame, to be honest. They've opened the door for teams to decide football matches and to decide which team goes through. So these COVID-19 results have such a significant effect on the games and who plays and who doesn't. So I think the worst is yet to come. And CAF need to do something as soon as possible, definitely before the group stage of the competition. Now we await a decision from CAF, It's most likely looking like that they will award Al Hilal a 2-0 victory.
So, Evans, you get what's going on. So, if you are coming into my country and we are going to play in the African Champions League or Confederations Cup, when you get to the airport, all I have to do is to demand another COVID test because I say I don't trust what you have done. Even if you have done the test 24 hours prior or 30 hours prior, I will speak to a lab in my country, make sure that, we do some community, and then we say that Evans Mensah's 3 key players or 4 key players or 5 key players
have
COVID, which might affect how your fielding of the team and so on and so forth. So Asante Kotoko say they have officially challenged their decision. They have written to the GFA and to CAF to register their displeasure. But we are waiting for a final decision because CAF has been known to award the home team the points and all that. So that is the latest.
Gary, thank you very much.
Right.
Now, ahead of tomorrow's inauguration of President Akufo-Addo for a second term in office, heads of state and top government officials have been arriving in Ghana. So far, Liberia President George Oponria, as well as the President of Guinea-Bissau, President Umaru Sokolo Mbalo, have arrived. Some vice presidents are also in. My colleague Kweku Asante have been at the airport all day and joins us on the telephone line right now. Also joining me is, of course, the Deputy Information Minister, Pius Hajide. Mr. Hajide, thank you for your time here on Newsnight.
Yeah, thank you, Evans, for having me.
Great. Kweku Asante, you've been at the airport. Who else has arrived tonight ahead of tomorrow?
Right, Evans. So the arrivals just was wrapped up here at the Kutuka International Airport with Julius Maada coming in from the Sierra Leonean capital for tomorrow's investiture. But before that, the president for Liberia, as you mentioned, George Oponria, had also been here. We had also received some officials from almost all African countries, either the Minister of Foreign Affairs or some really important figures from the country. But also the Malian vice president also arrived. And so today we received 2 presidents and 3 vice presidents. That is totaling 5 heads of states in Africa coming in today. We are expecting that most of them will come tomorrow morning for the investiture.
Kweku, thank you very much. Pius, are we ready for tomorrow?
Yeah, thank you very much, Evans, once again. Yes, indeed, the state is ready for the only event of the swearing in of HE President-elect Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and HE Vice President-elect Alhaji Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. As you are well aware, the ceremony is going to happen within the precincts of Parliament. It is starting at 11. The facility, the dome facility that has been put up to house about 1,000 and over delegates and persons are well prepared for tomorrow. So yes, the direct response to your query is that indeed we are very prepared for the activities of tomorrow.
And you touched on the novelty today. I mean, one of the things that the Constitution had said, but had not really happened in reality, which is the actual swearing of the president before Parliament. For the first time, this is going to happen in the precinct of Parliament itself, in the dome. How much of a difference will this make? And I know you've been involved in the actual preparation for this. Is a say said for that?
Well, Evan, truthfully speaking, there is precedent. In 2005, H.E. John Ajay Kufuor was sworn in Parliament and before Parliament. Again, but of course, majority of the time we have had to relocate to the Independence Square for the swearing in. Parliament has been complaining about this practice, and Parliament has made a request. You recall that on the 3rd of November 2020, when the President was the President of Parliament to commission the use of 600 annex, the Leader of the House, Honorable Evans Mensah, spoke for and on behalf of the Parliament and communicated Parliament's desire to have the swearing in of subsequent presidents. I mean, since November 3rd, all presidents, they've communicated their desire to have them inaugurated before Parliament and at least within the precincts of Parliament. Now, the transition team that has the mandate under the Presidential Transition Act to organize the inauguration has considered favorably the request of Parliament. Logistically, we think that it is easier because then we are sure that members of Parliament are physically present. One of the fears of members of Parliament have been that when they take it outside, sometimes party enthusiasts and other members of the general public rather take over even the sitting places designated for MPs. And that strictly speaking, President is not sworn before Parliament because most members of Parliament are not even able to represent. And for Parliament to be properly constituted, three things need to happen. There has to be a speaker in chair, there has to be members that constitute a quorum, and there has to be the parliamentary maze. And so in the absence of one of these, it's a problem. And so we believe that the new idea of the swearing in happening within the prison of Parliament will allow for members of Parliament to be physically present, will allow for the Speaker to be in chair, and the maze will be present. So Parliament can be properly constituted, and then the President can be sworn in accordance with our laws and in accordance with international best practices.
Well, Pius, thank you very much. Of course, we're looking forward to tomorrow.
Evans, let me quickly just add with indulgence that the general public is advised to follow tomorrow's program on television and on radio, and that attendance at the function itself is by invitation. Fortunately for us, this day, tomorrow, is not just the statutory date for the swearing in of our president and vice president. It is also the Constitution Day and therefore a national holiday. And so we believe that the environment of the State House, the precincts of Parliament, and its surrounding areas will be decongested, and that until and unless you have critical business to conduct in that enclave, our advice is that the general public should monitor the program from the comfort of their homes and follow us on radio and on television.
Okay. Pius Ajide is the Deputy Information Minister, and Enimado is the Deputy Joy FM Minister, and joins us in the studio, ready to take off with Strong and Sassy.
Yes. So there's a lot happening in town. Gosh, what's a day it's been? Court injunctions and both sides calling themselves the majority. And hey, it's not easy. But you know what?
Tell me.
A lot of women have one thing on their minds.
What is that?
A lot of mothers. Our kids are going back to school.
Oh, yeah.
And what we do know is that after tomorrow, a lot of these issues would begin to simmer down. With the president to be sworn in. Obviously, we have the election petition. We're not going to be done with that anytime soon. But our kids are going back to school next week.
Yeah.
So there's anxiety, there's excitement, because mothers are brave. Generally, we're looking forward to some degree of sanity. But Evans, every woman that I speak to has some sort of fear. Are our kids going to be okay? Are the schools prepared? Are our teachers prepared? How are we going to prevent our children from saying, "Let me try your mask"? How? Oh my, can you imagine? Your son is probably going to be a culprit of "let me try your mask."
Possibly.
So we want to talk about that. Yeah. We want to get our minds, ready for what is coming next week. A lot of the schools are reopening next week, Monday. So we want to have a mother's forum this evening and really just talk about how we feel about that. And how we're going to ready ourselves to get our kids ready and all of that. There's also a lot of women who have decided that their kids are not going to go back to school. And so they're going to keep on homeschooling them. How is that going to affect their education and their integration back into, their routine and all of that? So that's the conversation we're having tonight. But we're also going to talk a little bit about our women in Parliament. Because we are excited. We have some very boisterous, assertive women entering parliament. So we want to talk about what we expect from them as well. So this evening, it's a little bit of a, a mix.
Everything.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. And you can stay and have the conversation with us before you head.
Well, the girls are about to sit. Stay with them.